Hello and welcome guys to another video. In today's video we are going to be talking about a horrific and disturbing murder case that happened over 30 years ago, and in this video we're going to explain all the details of the case and how this is one of the worst cases we've seen in history. This case involves a female teenager who was groomed by an older man and how that older man managed to manipulate her and kill her. Kelly Ann Bates was a 17-year-old living in Gorton in Manchester, England. She was groomed by 48-year-old James Patterson Smith, who had a history of being violent towards girls and women as well as grooming teenage girls. Smith had groomed Kelly when she was just 14 years old when she was babysitting for her friends. Kelly's mother tried desperately to put an end to the relationship, to no avail. When her mother would see Kelly, she would be covered in bruises, but Kelly would claim she simply got them from accidents. Kelly became withdrawn and left her job. When her brother came to visit her, Smith claimed she wasn't home. Smith tried to cut her off from her family. At this time, Kelly was being treated and abused in a horrific way, and her love for James prevented her from reporting him to the police and putting him in jail right where he belongs. This same abuse continued for a while until one day it just all ended and the abuse had gone way too far. This happened on 16th of April 1996, when James reported to authorities that he had accidentally killed his girlfriend during an argument in a bathtub, claiming that she had inhaled water and died following his attempts to save her. James also claimed that she had often pretended to be unconscious. Police went to James's address and found Kelly's naked body in a bedroom. Her blood was found throughout the house, and a post-mortem examination revealed over 150 separate injuries on her body. During the last month of her life, she had been kept bound, sometimes tied to a radiator or furniture. When the police arrived, the injuries that were discovered to her body were that her eyes were gouged out of their sockets, stab wounds were found inside her mouth, and across her body caused by various weapons such as knives and scissors, as well as forks. There was a scarred mark on her legs and buttocks, mutilation to her genitals as well as her ears, eyebrows, nose and lips, a fractured arm and crush injuries, wounds caused by pruning shears, hot iron burns on her thigh, and she was partly scalped. She was also starved. It was also discovered that Smith had also stabbed Kelly's empty eye sockets after her eyes were removed. It was determined that her eyes had been removed no less than 5 days before her death, possibly even up to 3 weeks. He then drowned her in the bath and beat her head with a shower head. After being arrested for her murder, Smith ludicrously tried slandering Kelly, claiming that she would often wind him up and insult his mother's death, attempting to justify his treacherous murder. He also claimed that Kelly dared him to torture and murder her. As a result, he denied murdering her. Because of Smith's lack of sorrow and remorse for Kelly's death, Smith was sentenced to serve a minimum of 20 years for her murder before being considered for parole. But this wasn't just James's first horrific crime. James Smith was an unemployed divorcee living in the Gorton area of Manchester, described by acquaintances as house-proud and well-groomed. He was a teetotaler and non-smoker. James's marriage had ended in 1980 after 10 years because he had been violent towards his wife. His next relationship was with 20-year-old Tina Watson, whom he, between 1980 and 1982, he used as a punch bag, even subjecting her to severe beatings while she was pregnant with their child. Tina came out and said at first it was now and again, just a little tap, but in the end it was every day. He would smack me in the face or hit me over the head with an ashtray. He would kick me in the legs or between the legs. Tina managed to escape from the relationship, during which Smith had also attempted to drown her while she was bathing. After that relationship came to an end in 1982, James, the disgusting pedophile, started seeing 15-year-old Wendy Mottershead, whom he also abused. In one attack, he held her underwater in the kitchen sink in an attempt to drown her. After this relationship had ended, it wasn't until 1993 when James began grooming Kelly while she was 14 years old. Having met her while she was babysitting for friends, approximately 2 years later, when she had left school, Kelly moved in with James at his home in Furnivall Road, Gorton. She was concealing the age difference between them from her parents, Tommy and Margaret Bates. Kelly's mother said of her first meeting with Smith after the two had started living together, "As soon as I saw James, the hairs on the back of my neck went up. I tried everything I could to get Kelly Ann away from him, but she just wouldn't resist." Unfortunately, after the two started living together, this is when Kelly started to suffer a lot of abuse from James, such as fractured arms and stab wounds on her body. And around this time, Kelly's relationship with her parents was strained, so she didn't have anyone to look to and she had no support. Unfortunately, the rest of the case went horrifically, and in 1996, Kelly was brutally murdered by James. The most unfortunate thing in this case is the lack of power Kelly's parents had from convincing Kelly away from James, and that they couldn't do anything about the situation even though they knew it was very wrong and that James was abusing and grooming Kelly in an awful way. It's also extremely unfortunate for Kelly because she was young and she was easy to manipulate, and she probably thought James was a great person and that their relationship was normal. The most unfortunate thing about Kelly and James's relationship is Kelly's death and how she was the only person who James had groomed who had managed not to survive the whole process. To this day, James is in jail, and I believe that he should have got the death penalty, as it should have been great justice for Kelly's family, and the amount of people James had groomed, he would have already killed other people if he got the chance to.